Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, a name synonymous with horror, the Milwaukee Cannibal, a serial killer who terrorized Wisconsin. From 1978 to 1991, he killed 17 young men. His crimes? Unimaginably gruesome. He was a nightmare come to life. Dahmer's case still chills the nation. What could drive a person to such darkness? A mix of psychological turmoil and missed opportunities. His story is a stark reminder of hidden evil. We must learn from it, even if it's painful. Dahmer's victims were mostly young, gay men of color. He preyed on the vulnerable, luring them with promises. Once inside his apartment, the horror would unfold. He drugged, tortured, and killed his victims. His apartment became a charnel house. Neighbors complained, but nothing was done. This failure allowed Dahmer to continue his spree. The police missed crucial signs, with devastating consequences. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in Milwaukee in 1960. His childhood was troubled, marked by instability and emotional neglect. Some point to these early years as the root of his darkness. Dahmer was a quiet, withdrawn child. He had a strange fascination with dead animals. He would collect animal carcasses, dissecting them with a morbid curiosity. This macabre hobby disturbed those around him, but it was a harbinger of the horrors to come. As Dahmer grew older, he became more isolated. He struggled to connect with others, retreating further into himself. His parents' relationship was volatile, filled with arguments and resentment. This toxic environment undoubtedly took a toll on young Jeffrey. He witnessed firsthand the breakdown of a family, leaving him emotionally scarred. Some experts believe that Dahmer's fascination with death was a way to cope with his own feelings of powerlessness. By controlling the deaths of animals, he could exert a sense of control over his own chaotic world. This need for control would later manifest in his horrific crimes against human victims. Dahmer's troubled childhood does not excuse his actions, but it provides some context for understanding the development of his dark psyche. Dahmer's first murder occurred in 1978, just weeks after he graduated high school. His victim was Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker Dahmer lured back to his home. It was a brutal, premeditated act, setting the stage for the horrors to come. Over the next 13 years, Dahmer's killing spree continued. He developed a modus operandi targeting young men on the fringes of society. Dahmer would befriend his victims, often offering them money or a place to stay. He used his charm to gain their trust, luring them into a false sense of security. Once he had his victims alone, Dahmer would drug their drinks, rendering them unconscious. He would then strangle them to death, indulging his dark fantasies. But Dahmer's crimes went beyond murder. He was driven by a perverse need to possess his victims, both in life and in death. Dahmer would engage in necrophilia, posing his victims' bodies in grotesque tableaus. He would take photographs of his handiwork, preserving the memory of his gruesome acts. In some cases, Dahmer would dismember his victims, keeping their skulls and other body parts as trophies. He even experimented with cannibalism, consuming the flesh of some of his victims. In 1991, Dahmer's reign of terror ended. Tracy Edwards escaped and flagged down police. He told them a chilling story of a man who had drugged and threatened him. Police discovered human remains in Dahmer's apartment. Dahmer was arrested and his trial captivated the nation. He pleaded guilty, but insane. The jury found him guilty. Sentenced to 15 life terms, Dahmer was killed in prison in 1994. Christopher Scarver, a fellow inmate, beat Dahmer to death.